that's straight and right. By the light of the Word.
Today on Light of the Word with Pastor Ray.
They want a monarchy rather than a theocracy under God. And here's the string that this decision will take them. Christian, listen. Every decision has a destination. Every decision you make in your life has a destination. Whether you realize it or not, there is a destination, and sometimes that destination will not only affect you, it'll affect your children and your children's children.
Open your heart to us, Lord, so we can know your word. We come before you, Jesus. Speak to our hearts as we discover your love for us. How wide, how deep, how far. Pour into us so we can learn to follow. One surrender at a time. You have made the way for us to know you, a path that's straight and right. By the light of the Word.
When God delivered Israel from Egypt, He wanted to be their God and rule over them with love and justice. However, Israel saw that their neighboring nations had kings and were jealous, so they clamored for God to give them a king too. In today's message, Pastor Ray teaches us the far-reaching consequences of Israel's decision to forsake the Lord's administrative rule in the land. Although Jesus will eventually redeem this poor decision by coming to rule Himself, their foolishness cost them generational pain. Well, let's join Pastor Ray for today's edition of Light of the Word from the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 9.
So we're in 1 Samuel, and just to catch up where we've been, the nation of Israel for 25 years, they've been living in a time of peace and prosperity. Their enemies are at bay. They've actually taken back land that was taken from them by the Philistines. It's an unprecedented time in the nation of Israel. But Samuel's now older. The people are having a hard time walking by faith, and now they want to walk by sight. And so they're calling Samuel and said, give us a king so that we might be like other nations. And God gives them a forewarning, no, this isn't what you want. But God says to Samuel, Samuel, it's me they're rejecting. They don't want me to reign over them. I will give them what they want, and if they want a king, I'll give them a king. We are about 10,050 BC. So the story that we're reading is about 3,000 years ago. But I just want to give you the quick summation of history of where we're at, because you always have to be in the context of the history to understand what the scripture is saying and the various pieces. So creation about 4,000 BC, 6,000 years ago. The flood came about 2350. You can give or take on that. Nobody was there, at least not that I know personally. Abraham, 2,000 years BC, so about 4,000. Then the nation of Israel goes into slavery in Egypt around 1850 there BC. They're there for 400. They wandered the wilderness for 40 years. Then we studied the period of Judges, approximately 350 years. So 1400 to now we're coming up to this time of the king, 1050. Then we're going to have David, Solomon. Then the kingdom's going to divide. And so we can already see there's going to be a problem of the kingdom dividing because Saul, he's not going to turn out so well. David, he's going to be known as a good king, a man after God's own heart. Solomon, he's going to start well and poorly. Here's all the kings of the northern kingdom, and only 2 will go down in history as good kings. And again, how do I gauge these evil kings, good kings? Because you could read other commentaries, and I'll finish that statement here in a second. So Hezekiah and Josiah, 2 good kings. Here's the northern kingdom, all evil kings. And so the question is going to be, well, how do you come up with that? How do you gauge good king, bad king? And it comes down to, did they lead the people into the presence of the one true and living God? Many kings we're going to read did great things, rebuilding this, establishing this, defeating these enemies, reinforcing walls, etc., etc. But they'll, in the end, we'll read, except these two kings, Hezekiah and Josiah and David, we'll read, though, in the end, they would not tear down the high places. They would allow the people to continually follow the false gods of the Canaanites around them. We will read through kings of them leading, actually being the leaders. Some will actually lead them into idolatry. Others will just turn away and, for political correctness, not correct them. And it would be the same. Would I be considered a good pastor if I, through our church, we planted orphanages in Cambodia, Nicaragua, and Mexico? So we did orphanages, then we did medical outreaches all through not just the third world, but into this country. And we provided financial assistance for people who were in need. And so many of those things, people go, man, that's a good pastor, that's a good pastor, that's a good pastor. But in the end, I didn't stand firm on this one thing. Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. And there is no other way to come before God. If I was weak on that and I watered the scriptures down because I wanted a crowd or I didn't want to offend people, in the end, would you say that was a good pastor? You'd be like, no, he did good works, but he wasn't a good pastor from the spiritual sense. And that's what we see here with these kings. And so where I'm going with this, the kingdom's going to divide. So already Israel's asking, and something within just about 120 years, it's going to start to divide. There will be a northern kingdom. About 150 years into that, they're going to be conquered and deported and assimilated and kind of go into oblivion. The southern kingdom, there near Jerusalem, they'll last a little bit longer, maybe like another 150 years. But as we know, they go in to captivity in Babylon. And then Jerusalem gets destroyed about 586 BC. And then there will be a return, which is going to start. There's going to be a return. King Cyrus of the Persian Empire, he's going to conquer Babylon. He's going to allow the Jewish people to return. That's about 538 BC. They'll start to rebuild the temple. Then a second group will return with Ezra, and they'll do some more work. Then a third group's going to come, and this is the key to return to Jerusalem, 445 BC. Everything you do with math must be based, and you have to look at 445 BC. And we've been through that, and I'm going to do another refresher on that sometime here in the future. 445 BC, King Xerxes of the Persian Empire, he's going to give the command to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. And that will tie in with Daniel chapter 9 that will say, from the time going forth to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, count it 483 years, the Messiah will come. And 483 years to the day, from 445 BC, leap years counted and all those type of things, Jesus rode into Jerusalem and was heralded the Messiah. Perfection in the prophetic picture. Perfect. Only one man in the whole world could be the Messiah. It was the person who, 483 years from that moment that decree was given, and show up and be heralded the Messiah. And that's when they laid down their coats and they said, Hosanna, Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. So then the Grecian Empire will defeat the Medo-Persian. Then we know the Roman Empire is going to come. And in 33 AD, 483 years, Israel wants a king, and they actually miss the King of Kings. They ask for a king, and they miss the king. And then shortly thereafter, 70 AD, the Romans come in and utterly demolish and destroy Israel, Jerusalem, leave not one stone left unturned. And for 2,000 years, Israel lives without a homeland. But on May 14th, 1948, just as the prophet Isaiah said, can a nation be born again in a day? And May 14th, 1948, Israel becomes a sovereign nation again. So all this period from the time the kings are defeated, they are never a sovereign nation. They're always under someone. Babylon, Medo-Persian, Grecian, Roman. But here they are, 2,000 years without a homeland. No nation has ever survived 2,000 years without a homeland ever in the history of mankind but Israel. And May 14th, 1948, the nation's born again. What's up next? Because May 14th, 1948, that's Ezekiel 36 and 37. What's up next? Ezekiel 38 and 39 says, in the days of peace, coming from the north, when nobody will stand with Israel, coming from the north will be Russia and Iran, and they will be coming down to destroy Israel. But God will supernaturally step in and defend Israel, and all of Israel will know that he is the Lord. So we're going to do a prophetic update and speak of that sometime here soon. But here's what I want you to know. This string is based on this decision that we're going to study today. They want a king. They want a monarchy rather than a theocracy under God. And here's the string that this decision will take them. Christian, listen. Every decision has a destination. Every decision you make in your life has a destination. Whether you realize it or not, there is a destination, and sometimes that destination will not only affect you, it'll affect your children and your children's children. And that could be devastating regarding your marriage, regarding decisions you make about your children, regarding job situations you take, regarding where you may live and where you may go. Every decision has a destination. Now imagine a decision that's made solely, I'm going to follow the way of the Lord. I'm going to live according to the way of the Lord. I'm going to live according to his word. And that's the decision that you make. Oh, what a decision with a destination that will come with that. So verse 1, it's about 1050 BC. There was a man of Benjamin whose name was Kish, the son of Abiel, the son of Zeror, the son of Bechorath, the son of Apphah, a Benjamite, a mighty man of power. Maybe your translation says wealth, but this word power has such a vast meaning. It's wealth, it's influence, it's rank, it's military ability, it's fighting ability, it's being a warrior. And here is who Saul's father is, Kish. This is the pedigree, the lineage of Saul that he's going to follow. 5 generations given back to back to back, and then it jumps to Benjamin for number 6 where he begins. And so we know the history of Benjamin. We'll talk more about that as we study the life of Saul. Saul means desired. How fitting. They desired a king. And Saul's name means desired, asked for. And so here he comes in verse 2, and he had a choice and handsome son whose name was Saul. There was not a more handsome person than among the children of Israel. From his shoulders upward, he was taller than any of the people. You know, to be honest with you, as I read verse 1, and I read about his father and the generation after generation, and his father was a man of power, of rank, of wealth, and of warrior, and all that. It's kind of a letdown when you get, and then there was his son, Saul. He was good looking. He was a real cutie. I was kind of like, I want a king who can fight. You know, God help a nation who selects their king or their president based on his hair and his wealth. I just don't know where a nation like that is going to go. You know, where, wow, that's I don't know about that. That's hair. That's some hair there. He's head and shoulders above the rest. And the scriptures declare more handsome than anybody. This is God-inspired word. He was more handsome. We did a People's Magazine, the best-looking man in Israel, and every year there was Saul's face on that cover of that magazine, the best-looking man in Israel. Head and shoulders. You know what? If the NBA was in that day, Saul would have made millions. He's head and shoulders. He'd have made millions playing in the NBA because he's head and shoulders. It's at least a foot advantage. He'd have made millions in the NBA. Then he would have parlayed that into a movie career and made multiple more millions of that. And he would have just been known as the hunk who could dunk. This would be the life. I'm reading into the scriptures, and so you might challenge me on this. I put him in, he's tall, dark, and handsome, but he might just be blonde. I put him with that, that hair, that hair that when his head moves, his hair flows, and, people, it mesmerizes with that hair. And so I put him in, he's got to be blonde, he's got to be that blonde. And remind me of the blonde guy that I heard about, true story. The blonde guy that I heard about, he was watching the Discover Channel, and he was watching ice fishing. He got really charged up about it, excited. Man, I think I want to try this ice fishing. And so he went, he got all the gear, and he got all that, and he went and found the nearest frozen ice that he could. So he goes in there, and he starts drilling a hole, to do the ice fishing. And he hears this booming voice from above. There are no fish underneath the ice. Oh, wow. So he picks up all of his gear. He moves on about 20, 30 yards, and he starts digging another hole. True story. And he's digging another hole. And he hears this booming voice again. There are no fish under the ice. This is amazing and scary and exciting all at the same time. So he moves one more time, puts all of his gears down, makes himself a hot chocolate, then gets to work, starts drilling another hole. And then again, the booming voice, very commanding. There is no fish underneath the ice. And the blonde man, he goes, Lord, is that you? And the voice from above says, no, it's the manager of the ice skating ring. This is kind of what I picture Saul, the hunk who could dunk, and here he is coming, and all of Israel, wow, there he is. You notice what's not being said? Anything about Saul? God or his heart. There's no mention of the heart of God in this man. Mention of his good looks, his height, his stature, the wealth of his family, but no mention of the heart of God. 1 Samuel 8:19 through 20, where we transitioned from last week. Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel, and they said, no, but we will have a king over us, that we also may be like all the nations. And follow this, and that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles. Would you not think, wow, perfect answer? You would actually think God heard your prayer very convincingly, and that you were like, we asked for the right thing, because you know what's a great advantage in fighting, especially with a sword, is height. And here you have a man, he's head and shoulders above everybody. When you would go to the battle, could you not see this man? But there's something missing in the heart of this man, as we will read through. Israel's in awe. Even Samuel is, and that's pretty amazing. We'll read in 1 Samuel 16:7. But the Lord said to Samuel, do not look at his appearance or at his physical stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord does not see a man as man sees. For man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. But you would say, this man's perfect for war. Because, we got some enemies. And if you remember, as we'll read through, God's going to actually say, we're going back to fight against the Philistines. Isn't that a shame? They didn't have to fight the Philistines when it was the theocracy, but we'll read before it's over. They got to go fight them again now because they want this king over them. Philistines got some big guys now, don't they? Philistines got some big warriors. And the first one, his name is Goliath. Could you pick a better man to fight Goliath? your tallest man. I mean, it's been estimated based various that Goliath is like 9'6". So if an average man is 6 foot, Saul's head and shoulders, he's almost 7 foot. He's got a tremendous height advantage over anyone in Israel. 1 Samuel 17, Goliath. Then he stood and cried out to the armies of Israel and said to them, "Why have you come out to line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine, and you the servants of Saul? Choose a man for yourself and let him come down to me. If he's able to fight with me and kill me, then we will be your servants. But if you prevail against him and kill him, then you shall be our servants and serve us." And the Philistines said, "I defy the armies of Israel this day. Give me a man that we may fight together." Verse 11, when Saul and all of Israel heard these words of the Philistines, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. This is the man that they desired. This is the man that they asked for. Heads and shoulders, if there was anyone who could fight the giant, it was this man. But he doesn't have the heart of God. He doesn't have a warrior's heart to fight and believe that God can bring victory. And so comes a little runt, as he'll be considered. 1 Samuel 17:45, known as a man after God's own heart. David. Then David said to the Philistine, "You come to me." You just read the fire. You can read the heart of a warrior. You can read a man who had God's heart. "You come to me with a sword, with a spear, and with a javelin. But I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you and take your head from you. And this day I will give the carcass of the camp of the Philistine to the birds of the air and the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in heaven. Then all this assembly shall know that the Lord does not save with a sword, a spear, for the battle is the Lord, and he will give you into our hands." Commentating on this, Acts 13, he gives the history of Israel like we just covered. After this, he gave them judges for about 450 years. Depends how you do your math, counting Moses or counting Samuel. Until Samuel the prophet. And afterwards they asked for a king, so God gave them Saul, the son of Kish, a man of the tribe of Benjamin, for 40 years. And when he had removed him, he raised up for them David as king, to whom also he gave testimony and said, "I have found David, the son of Jesse, a man after my own heart, who will do all my will." Christian, I would pray everyone hearing would make a day and a moment right now, especially with the consideration that every decision has a destination. And you say to God, "I want your heart. I want to be a man, I want to be a woman after your own heart. I want to do your will, I want to do your ways. I want my heart to be in line with your heart." And if you missed last week's study, it's online. I want you to align my heart with yours, and then my heart will be in a line with yours. God shares secrets with the people who align their heart. God speaks and whispers into the ears of people who whisper into his ear, who share their heart. God shares his heart.
You have made the way for us to know you, a path that's straight and right. By the light of the word.
Thanks for tuning in today to Light of the Word. This message from Pastor Ray Bolus is part of a larger series that is giving us a new understanding of the Old Testament book of 1 Samuel. If you missed any part of the teaching or would like to explore more from Light of the Word, you'll be able to do so at our website, ccaac.org. Search through our library of audio messages from books of the Bible, special topics, and guest speakers, or take a look through Pastor Ray's message notes. You'll also find a link on our homepage to download our mobile app to take these teachings with you on the go. If you have any questions about this program or would like to share a prayer request with us, we'd love to hear from you. You can email us at mail@ccaac.org. That's mail@ccaac.org. We're honored to lift up our valued listeners in prayer, and we commit to do that for you as well. Are you part of a church family? Engaging in the Word with other believers is a great way to show your faith while finding and being able to give support. If you're in the Anne Arundel County, Maryland area, come join us at Calvary Chapel of Anne Arundel County. Visit ccaac.org for service times and details. We're excited to see you there. Thanks again for tuning in today for Light of the Word, illuminating the heart of God.